Hello friends, how are you doing today? My name is Mary, this is Happilyeveresch, and this is day something of Vlogmas. And today I want to talk about my Book of the Month Club subscription, and namely, do I use it? Do I like it? Let's chat all about Book of the Month Club, and we're going to use a little evidence by going through the books that I've picked month by month. Have I read them? Did I enjoy them? Let's just chat. I'm always so excited to get my Book of the Month Club, but do I actually read the books? Well, we're going to find out. So the first month I used someone's link or referral code so that I could get a pretty significant discount, maybe a free book. I don't exactly remember, but I didn't pick any of the picks for that month. I got 2 books that had been backlisted in their logs, and I think I was able to do that and pick it as my box book because it was a fan favorite. So the 2 titles that I chose were This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger, and then also A Woman Is No Man by Etaf Rum. I do believe both of these were like fan favorites or yearly favorites from 2019 maybe. So I was able to pick both of those. And this is kind of what compelled me to start my Book of the Month Club in the first place. Was I was interested in so many titles that they were putting out, and I could get really decent prices. So my thought process was kind of like, if they're a book you're gonna buy anyway, go ahead and purchase it, and if not, just skip for that month. Well, as you'll see, that's not exactly how it worked out, but that was my thought going in with these 2. Now, I did read This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger, and while I can appreciate why a lot of people love it, I didn't. It wasn't a favorite. I enjoyed it. It was okay. It was just a little too much for me, and the ending just didn't really sit well, but there were a lot of beautiful passages and writing, and I'm definitely not giving up on William Kent Kruger because I read Ordinary Grace and was quite smitten with it, and I really am interested in trying his mystery series. I think I'll really enjoy it. So this was a 3-star, I liked it book, didn't love it. This was probably my biggest disappointment in 2020 because I just wanted to love it so much, but they can't all be winners. And then I have not yet read A Woman Is No Man, but I'm still very interested to do so, so I need to get on it. But those were my first picks, and I believe that was in March, which was the start of the pandemic, which makes sense on why I was, going into a buying spiral. Okay, let's move on to April. That was my first box, and I picked 1 book. I was very self-controlled my first month, and that was Beach Read by Emily Henry. I was hemming and hawing, should I get a romance? Like, it's a fun genre, but they don't typically tend to be my favorite books, but I was like, no, go for it. You need something light and fun. April, I was like, you need a beach read. And so I picked this one, and I loved it. I adored it. It was such a fun, at times kind of meta romance book. Great characters. I loved the romance and the story. I was so invested. I gobbled it up in a couple days. I can't wait. I know Emily Henry's coming out with a new contemporary romance next year, I think, and I can't wait to read more from her. I loved this. This was a great 2 thumbs up, 5 stars. I loved this pick for my April box. So if we're keeping score, 2 read out of the 3, not bad. May, I skipped. None of the picks were really calling out to me, and so I just decided not to get that month, so I skipped in May. June, I picked a book that I was very excited about, a book that I wanted to read anyway, so we're continuing on with that theme of like picking things that I was really interested in. And that pick was The Vanishing Half by Britt, Bennett. This has been all over BookTube, all over Bookstagram. It's getting a lot of buzz for a very good reason. It's a stellar book. I'm very interested in reading Britt Bennett's other release, The Mothers, now that I've read this one. This is a historical fiction about 2 twin sisters who go on to live very different lives. It's about colorism and identity and boundaries and constraints in society. It was a stellar book. I really loved it. Very close to a 5-star read for me. So we're continuing on. I did not read it the month that I got it, but I did read it later for our book club pick, my in real life book club. Okay, moving on to July. I wasn't sure if I wanted to pick a book in July. None of the titles were ones that were recognizable to me, but I decided to go with this nonfiction pick, The Beauty in the Breaking. Oh, The Beauty in the Breaking. No, The Beauty in Breaking. Goodness. By Michelle Harper. This is a memoir from a doctor, an ER doctor, who is talking about her experience being a doctor and in the medical field. She's very holistic in her approach to medicine. She's also a Black woman, so it's her experience being a woman and a doctor, a Black woman and a doctor. This one was probably a 3 to 4 star read. The longer I sit away from it, the more I am softening towards it. I loved the medical commentary and the medical stories. So more of kind of like the self-helpy stuff wasn't for me because I just wasn't always on board with what she was saying, but I'm still so appreciative for her perspective. And I mean, she's lived an amazing life, is a very smart woman, and yeah, I'd say that this has probably gone up a bit and is probably a 4-star read for me, but I'm really excited. Probably a book I never would have tried without Book of the Month Club. So we're on a pretty good track so far. I have only not read one book, but it's about to go downhill. So for August, I picked The Death of Vivek Oju by Akwaeke Emezi. This I haven't read yet, but it's a literary fiction family story, and there's kind of a mystery aspect to it, so I'm definitely interested. And I know this author has also written a couple other books that have gotten a lot of buzz, in particular Pet, which I think is like a middle grade YA book that's gotten a lot of buzz. So this is still one I'm very interested in and very glad to have picked up from Book of the Month, but have not got to it yet. Then came September. September, I ended up getting all of the books. Not in September because you can only add on 2, but that's kind of how it seems to go. There's like months where it seems pretty dry, I'm not very interested in very many of the titles, and then there comes a month like September where I end up getting all of them. So for September, I did pick 3 of the titles. My actual Book of the Month Club pick, my box pick, was Cass, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. This is a nonfiction that I'm very interested in. This is the same author who wrote The Warmth of Other Suns, which is a huge, giant book. It's won tons of prizes. I have that one on audiobook, and I do hope to listen to it soon, but it is like a 24-hour audiobook. But this is her new release, and I wanted to pick this as like my main book, just to like say like, yes, Book of the Month, please continue to pick nonfiction. I'm definitely want that and wish there was some more of that in the selections. But yes, I was super excited to see this one and very glad to pick up this gorgeous hardcover for such a good price, because you really do get a great price on hardcover books with Book of the Month Club. And so then the other 2 for September that I added to the box. The first one was The Last Story of Minna Lee by Nancy June Kim. This is a book that I never heard anything about, but I was very interested in like the family drama mystery aspects of this book. It follows the Korean American experience, and I'm very interested. I haven't read a ton of books from that perspective, so yeah, it just was one that I wanted to also support and pick in my book box. And then the other one that I was so excited about, ever since I heard that Yaa Gyasi was releasing a new book, I was hoping that she would be in Book of the Month Club, and she was. So we have Transcendent Kingdom, which is very different than Homecoming. I think this one really focuses on one person's life and their grapplings with science and religion. I've heard it's a lot more quiet and slow paced. It just sounds like my perfect literary fiction novel, and I was stoked to pick this one. Now, as excited as I was about all these books, I have not read one of them. Now, I will say my reading kind of took a dip in the fall months, so that could be part of it. But I haven't read one of these, but I knew Cass would probably sit for a while because I wanted to read The Warmth of Other Suns, but these 2 I really want to put on some TBRs and make some progress in, because I think that I'll love them both, and I was so excited to get them, and I don't want to let that shiny new book excitement fade. So that was September. Then for October, I picked 2 books. This book was Leave the World Behind, and I have misplaced my book. I did read that one. This was kind of a gamble pick, and I knew that it was, but since it was the month of October, I wanted kind of a thriller, and this was like a literary thriller and like a little more quiet and like just suspenseful and builds that suspense, no like jump scares. It kind of sounded like my perfect thriller. I didn't end up loving this one, but I was glad that I took the chance on it, and that's another thing with Book of the Month Club. You can kind of experiment and see what you'll like. There's some new titles that are being thrown to you. Now, my intention was not to take these gambles when I signed up for it, but I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I gave it a try. The ending was really beautiful. I've learned that maybe his writing style isn't for me, and that's okay, but I still feel like I gained from this book. It wasn't a book that I hated by any means, and I was glad that I picked it. I really was. There were some moments in reading it I was like, why are you reading this? Put it down. It's awful. But that's, in the end, that's not how I felt about the book. And so I'm glad that that was a pick for me. And again, a good thing about Book of the Month to kind of push you outside of your comfort zone. And then I added on another book, and I wasn't so sure, but I've never read any V.E. Schwab, and I wanted to give it a try. The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. It just sounded magical, and again, it was October. I was kind of thinking some more eerie, like different fantastical books, and that's really what this sounds like, but with kind of a underlying romance, and people who love V.E. Schwab like love her. So I just wanted to give her a try, and this one, of all the books that I've heard about, sounded like it maybe would connect with me the most. It's historical fiction, but again, there's those fantastical, whimsical elements. We follow a young girl, or I don't know if she's young, I guess not because she's lived for hundreds of years, but we follow this girl who never dies, but no one ever remembers her either. So she's kind of like this anonymous person until one day someone does remember her. And I don't know, it sounded so magical and wonderful and beautiful, but it's a chunk of a book, which puts me off a lot of times. So we'll have to see about this one. It's definitely one I'm still interested in. I am sorry that the angles changed, but I like kicked my camera stand when I was grabbing some other books. And so my sincerest apologies. It also might go from this to that because I forgot to talk about a book, and so we might have some issues, but hopefully it doesn't bother you too much. So the other book I put in my October box was Fredrick Bachmann's Anxious People, and I'm not sure why. I think the hype really got to me for this one. Fredrick Bachmann doesn't tend to be like my favorite author, but I don't know, something about this book. It's about hostages and a bank heist. I don't know. I was so compelled, and it was like a $10 add-on, and I caved and I got it, and I'm okay with that. I'm gonna give it a try. I'm definitely super interested. Bachmann always has really compelling stories and characters, so I'm definitely interested in it, but maybe was one that I didn't like super duper need, you know, but I couldn't help myself. And I think that's sometimes how Book of the Month gets you. You can't help yourself because you're like, $10? New book? Sure. Okay, in the month of November, I ended up skipping. There were a couple books that caught my eye. Memorial and This Time Next Year were both ones that I considered, but they didn't seem like books that I would love long-term, want to keep on my shelves. And so I decided to pass on both of those, and so I just skipped for November. And then for my December box comes my fifth and final September pick, and I haven't gotten my December box yet, but I did add Winter Counts as an add-on for my Book of the Month December box. So that one will be coming. I'm super excited about it. I checked it out from the library but didn't get to it, but I just decided I wanted to own it. I'm also hoping it'll maybe be a series and there will be more. This is a mystery book set, I believe, on a reservation. It's written by a native person, and I'm just super interested in it. Also a perspective I want to read more from. I read There this year and really enjoyed it, and realized it was probably one of the only Indigenous authors that I've read, and so I definitely wanted to be reading more. And when the opportunity comes, I want to support it and take it from Book of the Month Club. So I'm really excited that that one's coming. And obviously I haven't read either of my December picks because they haven't gotten here yet. So that's it. I believe that's 12 books total that I have in my possession right now, and I've read 5 of them. That's not bad. That's almost 50%, and honestly, it's a ton better than I was even expecting from myself. So I am thinking that Book of the Month Club is honestly pretty good for me. I've had a lot of diverse picks. It has diversified my reading in a lot of ways. I'm getting more new releases, which is something that's kind of starving in my book appetite from all of the thrift store purchasing that I do and secondhand purchasing, where you're getting more backlists. So this is nice to sprinkle some new titles in. A lot of times they have books that I'm interested in, new releases that I'm interested in, and it's a way to like support the author. Like they're getting a little boost with being a Book of the Month Club pick, but also it's really reasonably priced. It's also so much fun to get a book on your doorstep every month. So these are all definite pros for me. I'm gifting it to my sister for Christmas Vlogmas because I think that she will love it. She's still in college, so she reads a fair amount for a college student, but I think she'll love just getting to pick a book and it coming to her doorstep. There's such a great variety. And then if you don't like any of the books, you can just skip, and that's what I really enjoy about it. There's no forcing you to buy the book. You can skip, and then some months like September you buy all 5, but that's a story for another day, and maybe not the case if someone has more self-control than I do. Editing me. I did want to give a con. So my review wasn't all glowing, but I forgot in my Book of the Month Club Love stupor. You have to pick one of the 5 curated books for that month as your actual box. You can't pick an old book as your box book unless it's like one of the top beloved books. There's like a certain number that you can pick as your box. But so like in November I was like, oh, I'll just do Winter Counts and ship my box, but you can't do that. You have to pick. But add-ons are only $10, and so honestly you're kind of like saving if you just wait and skip and do like an actual December book and then add on Winter Counts. It's like saving a little money, maybe not really because you're buying 2 books, but would you have got it anyway? So that's just a thought that I had is I wish that you could pick a past book as your main book for the month. All right, back to the glowing review, Mary. Overall, I love the subscription. I've liked or loved all of the books that I've read. There's not been a super dud for me. I love the curatedness of it and that people are picking books and they tell you why they love them. Honestly, reading some of those descriptions from the pickers of the books have made me want to read them, and I love that. It's just like getting a little book recommendation from a friend. It's so much fun. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Really fun. Not sponsored. Book of the Month does not know who I am. But I do always have my Book of the Month referral link, which anyone who has a Book of the Month Club subscription can refer a friend, and you get a little bonus, I get a little bonus, so that's a lot of fun. So yeah, feel free to use it if you want to. No pressure. Probably tons of your other BookTube friends also have links or referral codes, and so, if you want to try it, go find someone or use mine. All right, friends, I think that's it. Yeah, definitely love Book of the Month Club. And I'm glad that I restarted my subscription. It's been a nice little look back, and honestly, almost 50%. I thought that it was worse than that. I mean, it would be worse once my December box comes, but those books aren't in my possession, so I'm not counting them. All right. I will see you tomorrow for another Vlogmas video. If you enjoyed, please like, and if you want to stick around for 25 Christmas days of content, subscribe. I think that's it. I think that's all I have for you. I'll talk to you later, friends. Bye. And by later, I mean tomorrow. Bye.